Depending on who you ask, Will Levis could be the savior of a franchise or could be the reason a front office gets fired. And no matter who you ask, everyone has an opinion and seldom is it anywhere in between. And there's a reason for both, to be fair to both sides. Levis did not have a great supporting cast during his senior year at Kentucky, which is true, and people will look at this and take a glance at Indy, who currently has the number 4 overall pick, and say, imagine what he could do with a healthy Jonathan Taylor and throwing to a 1,000-yard receiver in Michael Pittman, and they have a fair point. The other side will basically say his numbers were not impressive when playing the big guys in the SEC in his senior year, and that's what matters most. Because if you can't compete against the big guys in the SEC, how will you ever compete, much less succeed at the NFL level, and they too have a point. That's how a lot of Will Levis discussions go, and in today's video, we are going to break down Levis's tape from his time at Kentucky. And there is a lot to dive into, and without further ado, let's begin. And we are starting today's video by looking at some of Will's biggest strengths. Will is 6'3", 230 pounds, and has the NFL size and arm, and especially the arm. His arm strength is one of the first things you notice on tape, whether it's due to the velocity of the football or simply how far he can sling it. And when watching Levis's tape, there's one throw in particular I kept going back to and thinking, wow, what a throw, even though the pass was incomplete. I didn't care that it was incomplete as much as factoring in everything that went into the throw. Levis was throwing from his far hash on his own 8-yard line and comfortably throws this ball every bit of 60 yards. And I watched this play several times over because Levis didn't take 3 or 4 build-up steps to get momentum to get this throw out. It didn't take everything he had for him to throw this pass. And he threw this from his 8 to the opposing 38, which is 54 yards by itself, not factoring in the distance from far hash, which in college is actually further than what it is in the pros. Given Levis is a 6'3", 230-pound prospect with a big arm, there's naturally going to be lofty comparisons, and there has been, and plays like this, I don't want to say justify the Josh Allen comparisons, but they give you a better understanding as to why he has been compared to him. Within the same Ole Miss game, there was a play that wasn't anything special in the box score, as it was 2nd and 6 from their own 5-yard line, and Levis completed a pass to Chauncey Magwood for 8 yards for a first down. Why I like this play so much is the Ole Miss corner is baiting Levis into throwing an interception as Levis comes out of the play action looking for the tight end. However, he knows in the back of his head he can at worst throw it to his back in the flats for a gain of a few yards, and in this case it ended up going for a first down because Magwood made enough of a move to pick up the first down and move the sticks. Levis didn't force a pass he very easily could have to try and get the Kentucky offense moving out past their own 20. For the corner, it was a low-risk, high-reward play because if he can bait Levis here into a best-case interception, worst-case force an incomplete pass, Kentucky would have 3rd and 8 from their own 5-yard line. Instead, Levis takes what's essentially given to him and they move the sticks. And you may be thinking, okay, why is this important? And a play that I go back to for a lot of rookie or younger quarterbacks is back in Trevor Lawrence's NFL debut. The Jags had a 2nd and 9 on their 8-yard line, and Lawrence was looking for veteran DJ Chark on a corner route, only for veteran Vernon Hargreaves to intercept it and return it to the 7-yard line. Hargreaves had a very similar situation in what was a low-risk, high-reward play, as Trevor could have checked it down to Travis Etienne and picked up 7 or 8 yards, but predetermined where he was going with the football. And Trevor thought because of the threat of Etienne being there, that would be enough and he wouldn't necessarily have to look off Hargreaves. He didn't, and that was his 2nd of 3 interceptions on the day, in what would go on to be a very painful 2021 Jags season. All of this coming full circle obviously isn't to say Levis is going to be better than Trevor, or any of that, as much as there are a lot of examples on tape, with this 8-yard checkdown being one of them, that shows Levis does not always lock on and stick with his first read, like a lot of young quarterbacks do. Trevor obviously doesn't either, and the interception shown was a rookie mistake. Levis also does a great job of keeping his head up when the pocket is collapsing and continuing to look downfield. I tweeted a screenshot of a play he made, and screenshots, especially in football, can be misleading because you can pretty much screenshot any play at any point in time and say, here's a touchdown, or if this happens, etc., you get the point. But the screenshot was from a play where a defensive player was right in his grill, yet Levis got out of it and turned what should have been a 7 or 8 yard sack into a 6-yard gain. It was an insane play, yet it only showed up on the stat sheet as a 6-yard run. And how this scenario played out against Miami of Ohio relates directly to the video title in why Will Levis is the most polarizing player in the 2023 NFL Draft. He will make a play like this, where you can pause it and ask yourself, how in the hell is any player going to get out of this? And he finds a way, then makes an equally dumb, boneheaded decision the very next play. And this was a perfect example of that. He gets out of a sack that not a lot of NFL quarterbacks could, and follows it up with an interception inside the 5-yard line. And what was the most frustrating part about this interception is just how poor awareness Levis had. It's 4th and 2 and Kentucky is running a pick play, and the goal of this is for number 2 to drive the opposing cornerback far enough so Miami's corner hits the safety and they bump, leaving tight end Keaton Upshaw wide open. And it's a good concept, but poorly executed. The receiver did an okay job as there was separation, but for whatever reason, Levis decides to make this a touch pass and doesn't put anywhere close to the velocity he should on this pass given the situation, and not only was that the wrong decision, he throws this so short that Upshaw didn't have a chance to make a play. He's throwing from the near side of the field, and again, college hashes are further apart than they are in the NFL, so this would be a further throw at the NFL level, and he underthrows a pass and didn't remotely give his 6'6" tight end a chance. Levis should have thrown this ball with some zip, as it was 4th down in the red zone, and thrown it only where his guy could have gotten it. It was baffling to see a pick play go so poorly on a pass Levis has to at least give his guy a chance on. You can see Upshaw's frustration as the pass was short and how low it was when it should have been high and outside. Scenarios like this where you have an insanely high play where Levis is cutting upfield, even hurdling against Miami of all teams to try and get a first down, followed by an ugly interception, are plays from the Will Levis roller coaster. And for all of the Josh Allen comparisons, I actually think there's a better player to compare Levis to. There is a negative connotation surrounding this player because of how his career has went over the past few years, but for a brief period of time, Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate, and Levis reminds me a lot of Carson Wentz in every possible way: the good, the bad, and the ugly. And going back to the Ole Miss game for a minute, there was another scenario like this where Levis made a good play to throw to Chauncey Magwood and took what was in front of him. It helped that Magwood made a play and they picked up the first down. However, in another game of the Will Levis roller coaster, 3 plays later, Kentucky was faced with a 3rd and 12 from their 11-yard line. No matter what happens here, the ball has to come out quick. That has to be the worst case of this play, unless Ole Miss's defensive coordinator calls up a blitz nobody sees coming, and Levis gets completely blindsided. Those things happen over the course of a game. Levis's first and second reads weren't there, and Ole Miss was sending heat and were even showing it pre-snap, so Levis's internal clock had to have been quick. Worst case, throw this either 10 yards out of bounds in the direction of your receiver to ensure you don't get an intentional grounding penalty, or do what Tom Brady did a lot in 2022, which was throw the ball 4 or 5 yards short of their feet. Levis instead tries to make a play, but with 2 guys bearing down on him full speed, he cannot, and this becomes a safety. You can say the offensive line didn't do a great job picking up the blitz, and you can say this was a poor play design offensively. Both can be true, but it can also be true that Levis's internal clock at times simply never goes off. And plays like this, and scenarios like this, where just a few plays earlier he threw a pass to pick up a first down, remind me so much of Carson Wentz and the roller coaster that goes along with that. There's a lot of good with Levis and a lot of bad, and given his intangibles you can't coach, like being 6'3", 230 pounds with a cannon for an arm, teams will convince themselves they can coach the bad things out of him, and that with their coaching staff, combined with their supporting cast, meaning offensive coordinator and the other 10 players on their offense, that Levis will be their franchise quarterback. For me personally, he is far too inconsistent to select him in the top 10 of the draft, much less the top 5. A lot of the time, NFL general managers get to draft one quarterback during their time as a GM, and if he does not pan out, they are shown the door. Obviously, there are exceptions to that, but to effectively say I am putting my job on the line for Will Levis and where my family lives and where my kids go to school is a risk I would not take. During collegiate quarterbacks' careers, you often see a jump in production as they get older, and Joe Burrow and Kenny Pickett are perfect examples of this. Both turned 24 during their rookie year, in Kenny's case before his rookie year, which Levis will turn in June. Burrow's 2019 season at LSU is so far of an outlier in the fact he threw 60 touchdowns, won the Heisman, and was on a historic team. The point, though, is he made a jump from the age 22 season in 2018, in which he threw 16 touchdowns and completed just 57.8% of his passes. The age 23 season was the year for him and Kenny Pickett, who had a similar jump. Kenny went from a 2,400-yard passer and 13 touchdowns to over 4,300 yards, 42 passing touchdowns, and won a conference championship during his senior year at Pitt. But Will never had the jump, and there's plenty of blame to go around when projecting Levis. There's times when watching Kentucky where you watch the play develop from the wide angle and wonder why the receivers are so close from a spacing standpoint 15 yards down the field. Will's offensive line was terrible throughout the 2022 season, and during the Miami of Ohio game alone, his left tackle allowed 5 pressures and 2 sacks. If your left tackle specifically is giving that up against a much smaller school in Miami of Ohio, you are setting your quarterback up for failure, whether it's Will Levis or Patrick Mahomes. There was one play in particular during a 2-minute drill where Levis was extremely lucky this went for a gain of 15 yards. Kentucky is running a stick concept, and Miami is running a stunt with their pass rushers. The left tackle, not surprisingly, gets blown back and ultimately gives up a quarterback hit. But even before the pressure and ultimately quarterback hit, Levis was staring the receiver down from the start, and I think this would have been an interception by the safety if he isn't hit as he threw the pass, but it bounced off the linebacker's hands, who also read Levis's eyes, and bounced directly into his receiver's arms. I would put the possibility of this happening at the NFL level at a roughly 0% chance, and the linebacker not intercepting this and taking it for 6 somehow turned this into a positive for Kentucky. I just think it is far too much of a gamble to draft Levis with a top 10 pick, and sure, you can argue these things can be coached out of him, and that maybe in a year or two, we are looking back at this and Levis is a star. Because there are things to be excited about with Levis too, aside from the physical tools. There was a touchdown against Ole Miss way later in the game after the check down and the safety and all of that, where Levis's first read wasn't there on the go ball, to which he came back and ripped a pass across the middle. Number 3 doesn't have much field to cover since he is on the boundary side, and Levis knows this, and the backer wants to jump a route and create a red zone turnover, but Levis's subtle eye manipulation keeps him in place just long enough for him to throw a touchdown pass in the second half to tie the game. But as always with Levis, for every flash he shows, there's equal plays, if not worse, in the other direction. He finished 2022 with 7 big-time throws to 13 turnover-worthy plays per PFF, and to go back to the age concern for a minute, he is 11 days younger than Vikings star receiver Justin Jefferson. Jefferson is 3 years into his career and has an Offensive Player of the Year award to his name, while Levis is just now going through the draft process. How will he fare in the NFL? Well, obviously a lot of that boils down to where he goes and how he gets coached, which applies for every prospect, not just Will Levis. I personally wouldn't take him in the top 5 or 10 picks, as I think the bad far outweighs the good. Let me know what you think in the comments, but that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it would mean the world and help the channel a ton. And until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.